I even took lessons.
Lessons?
Practiced on my own.
You practiced?
Thou say Ty Fosters. Do you have Fosters?
That's pretty salty dialogue, right?
Here we are again, folks. Time for another trip down 70s memory lane with the greatest TV show ever. We left this trip last time out with Toba and Evil Willie wandering back from the Boozer on Bladegrove Road. From there, let's cross under the Westway and head to Aldridge Road Villas, where first up in Stay Lucky, eh? Jack and George are staking out the flat of burglary suspect Colin Jenner. Barry Tyson, rocking the double denim here, pays the wounded Jenner a visit.
Barry Tyson. Now he is a good wire man. I thought he was in Dundee.
Well, obviously he's black.
Walking down the street today, some new render and paint as we come to expect, but the houses are still very identifiable. And none more so than number 46 here. This looks like the same door from 50 years ago painted black. Same doorknob, same letterbox. I'm not even sure this isn't the same bell push, just painted over white. Very rare to see surviving fixtures and fittings like this now. In the exact same location, in the episode Love in Arms, the squad are after a wrong'un peddling counterfeit shooters. Here they pull up to the curb opposite the house on a very empty looking street. Now of course it's permit residential parking, more motors per house or flat, though filming in the middle of the day you see gaps where people are out. This low angle pan shot is from inside the front garden. I obviously couldn't recreate that, but in any case you can see it's the same door to number 46 that Regan rings at, and the fence looks to have survived intact too. We'll move a short distance now to St Luke's Mews, I do like a good mews, where the squad are racing to a takeaway done over at gunpoint earlier in Love in Arms. The money's moved in now of course, as have the Love Actually fans. Apparently this pink house is where a weirdo Bob Dylan impersonator stalks some other geezer's missus. Strange what locations some people want to visit, eh? There's several other Mews locations to come in future videos. From this one, the Console GT pulls out into All Saints Road. The takeaway sits on the corner at 7 All Saints Road. We got some triple denim action here if you count the cap, as two female tearaways robbed the place with a replica firearm. Check out this dude just chilling out while it all goes on around him. This was the Ripe Tomato restaurant up until its sale in 2017. In general, this street mixes some completely new buildings with ones which, structurally at least, are still the same. The Doris from the shop, did they all wear them coats back then? Runs onto the street and attracts a handily placed constable. There's another anachronism for you, a nearby officer when you need one. PC Adler gives chase down All Saints Road, with a watching crowd off to the right. Again, we can see a lot of buildings here that are the same then and now. Later in the episode, Jack and George pull up to question the wooden tops, having torn through the mews, which is where we came in.
Where's the one who was shot at?
The chase sequence moves out onto Westbourne Park Road, which the girls cross and head down into Powys Gardens. You can see the same basic structure of the building opposite here. Further down Powys Gardens, the girls split up, with the shooter dodging right through a fence and Triple Denim heading straight on. Adler decides to follow the former. These days, expensive motors and no dodgy broken fences, but unfortunately it seems that dumping rubbish on the street never goes out of style. The gap in the fence leads into the back of All Saints, a Gothic church built in the mid-19th century. It was badly bombed in the war and still in a parlous state in the mid-70s as Girl with Gun legs it round its northern edge. Adler ducks back for cover by the northern transept as the girl takes aim and the replica shooter explodes out of her hand. He continues the chase, wisely getting the dodgy gun off the streets first. The church was significantly rebuilt during the late 70s and is looking a lot cleaner now. I remember the Natural History Museum back in the day being sandblasted from similar leaded petrol black back to its former glory. Alas, just as much rubbish now though, if not more. All Saints was built on a swamp that couldn't bear the weight of its originally envisaged magnificent spire. Before its completion in 1861 it stood empty for years when its patron, Reverend Walker, went bankrupt and was known variously as Walker's Folly and All Sinners in the Mud. You can see from this view that there's been quite a bit of rebuilding on Clydesdale Road opposite. Clydesdale Road turns right into Colville Square, and it's down here that PC Adler runs off, having lost sight of which way the girl has gone. You get a better view of the church's Gothic design here. There's still a pedestrian area separating Colville and Powis Squares, which themselves interrupt the two halves of Talbot Road. As Adler scarpers off west, we can see that most of the buildings on his right have been knocked down and replaced. Regulars to the channel will have heard me talk about geographic continuity of shots, and have no doubt spotted that we have another fine example here. All the shots in the chase, from the takeaway to away down Talbot Road, are presented in a logical sequence as you'd follow them today. As indeed I did. To the eastern half of Talbot Road now, where double denim disaster Barry Tyson is wanted for a word with his boss, Mr. Kirby. Kirby has sent his enforcer onto the streets to sniff Tyson out. Recognise him? Of course you do. That's Skeff Warren, right nasty piece of work. Just look at that shirt and jacket combo Skeff's sporting. You know he's not kept around for public relations and hospitality. These shots were so tightly framed that it's hard to see much of the buildings around them, but Tyson comes out of this corner shop at 114 Talbot Road, and Skeff intercepts him next door. Their little chat takes them round the corner onto Powis Terrace.
You had an appointment early this morning with Mr. Kirby.
I know, but as I just...
There, Skeff does the kind of talking he's more used to. Wallop! Before bundling Tyson into a Merc to be taken to see Mr. Kirby. Again, tightly framed shots make it difficult to see much. This is the window next to where Skeff and Tyson discussed their differences of opinion, wisely now with its shutters down. The buildings up Powis Terrace have been relieved of some of their 70s grime, but for the most part, the only noticeable difference here is the motors parked outside. A bit to the south, down Ledbury Avenue, we have a location from Trojan Bus. Art gallery owner Leonard Giesler is being targeted by Aussie tearaways Colin Ray, who observe his movements from the next door Walmer Castle pub.
Cool. Right.
As you can see, what served as the gallery has had its basements opened up since the episode filmed. It's been a clothing store amongst other things, and apparently is soon to be a restaurant. Next door, this former Whitbread boozer thankfully retains its old tiling, and has been serving locals and visitors since 1845. It even references its SWEENEY heritage on its website. Some classic old school pub tables here. Reminds me of being stuck out in the garden with a lemonade and a bag of crisps to last you an hour while your old man downed pints inside. If it had a garden, that is. Otherwise they were brought out to the car.
I don't know, right?
I must admit, I don't recall Foster's as a faux stamp of Aussiness being a thing till Paul Hogan in the 80s, but clearly it was.
You practice.
I, of course, went inside for a pint whilst I was here. Thankfully, a nice local ale. None of that amber nectar nonsense. Colin Ray's obbo is to check Giesler's habit of catching a particular bus from opposite the gallery, with the intention of intercepting him from a stolen bus as he takes a valuable painting to be sold.
That's pretty salty dialogue, right?
Looking up across the street today, the buildings are generally a little brighter looking, but otherwise not all that much has changed. Like me, you might recognise this music as the theme tune to BBC's rugby special programme back in the day. I'm not sure if this was a real bus stop, but a little bit of bus route research tells me that a number 52 heading up here in the direction of Neasden certainly seems plausible enough. Here we've got cleaner looking buildings and a lot more trees than there were before. This view is looking south down Ledbury Road from where we see the stolen bus approaching. Again, I'm struck by how much more open it looks in the episode compared to now. We'll carry on south now to Pembridge Crescent and the very first episode, Ringer. This is where Regan's girlfriend Jenny lives in a flat at number 17A. There's very little in the way of exterior shots of this location. All we really see is this obscured view from the garden as Regan goes out to Jenny's car. Before I knew exactly where I was looking, I did a load of searching for buildings called something ending in DNEY House. Sydney House? Rodney House? I drew a blank on this one for quite some time. As it turns out, Rodney House was on the money. You can see that this building has clearly had a facelift since back in Regan's day. I couldn't film from inside the garden, obviously, but the views still match up pretty well. We move further south again now to Notting Hill Gate, and a scene from Contact Breaker where the governor himself, Mr Haskins, has left his desk and is carrying out obbo on a bank they suspect is being targeted. Unfortunately, as we and they soon learn, the info they received is false and the job is at a completely different bank. If you look carefully here, you'll see that the bank name is the real one, National Westminster, rather than National Anglia, the fictional name usually used by the series. I presume because real banks get twitchy at the suggestion that they might be vulnerable. As you can see, it's still an NatWest today. Obviously I had to film it from street level, rather than the high vantage point of the episode shot. Haskins has a drag on camera, something else you rarely see these days, whilst he waits for the action which never materialises. Meanwhile, here we have the more usual National Anglia, where the robbers are smashing their way into the vault from next door. It seemed odds on that the shots of Haskins watching the bank must have been taken from this tall building opposite on Newcombe Street. It's clearly been around for years, and that certainly looks like some kind of open roof access area right at the top. A little Google Maps detective work confirms that there is a railing running along a low wall which matches exactly with where Haskins was stood, so I reckon he was tucked right into this corner. We'll finish up by heading to the same place Skeff took Tyson, Mr Kirby's house on Hillsley Road. We see an exterior shot as Kirby's gang leave to have it out with the rival firm that swiped their loot. Kirby's house is number 9, this white one on the left of the shot. And here it is today, looking much the same. Nice looking gaff. Crime evidently does pay, eh? Not of course that I'm suggesting anything of the current occupants. Either way, I suspect a quiet street tucked between Hyde Park and Holland Park costs you a lot more than a bleeding art story and a broken brandy glass these days. We'll finish up with a quick look at the route I walked on this trip. The section covered in the previous video is in red, and this video is in the purple. And all that now remains is to thank you as ever for watching and for all the support. Ta-da!